I'm Andrew Willett for A Pro Basketball Show. Follow and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as following on social media at APBShow on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow me as well at TheACWillett22. Thank you so much for tuning in, and without further ado,
Here, you know what? We're ready because we'll tip this thing right off. I'm gonna take every second that I can get with Tyler DeLuca on the show, and joining me now from the Committee Sports Group on A Pro Basketball Show. Tyler, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're taking the time to get right into these lists. For me, it was like let's go back to my preseason predictions. Let's see where we're at this point. Mm-hmm. But today we're going to talk about second half of the season, what we expect to see, and then get into some awards. Have a little bit of fun. I know you. You're a very busy man. You've been doing a lot, so I won't take too much of your time. We'll run right through it. But no, dude, how have you been doing? I know you went to All-Star. What's been going on?
Man, it's been wild. I mean, Vegas has kind of been like the destination, like on my calendar, right? It's like, all right, once I get through all this, I get to go to Vegas. I get to go to All-Star, and like it lived up to the hype. Like, I mean, everything going around, a lot of like the activation, like the fan stuff. That's where I spent a lot of my time. Honestly, was like what you mentioned, being part of the committee. I was there credentialed for us and getting to go to like WNBA Live, things like that. A lot of the fan engagement. This was my first All-Star ever, so that just it felt like it was funny. You talk like we were in the press conferences and we heard like Satu and Nneka, right? And Satu, first time All-Star. Nneka, a whole lot of All-Stars. I don't know how many she has off the top of my head, but whole lot. Not her first time. And the difference in like the energy was very clear. Where it's like Nneka's like, all right, let's get this over with. While Satu is like giddy, like she's ready to go. And I was Satu all over the place. Anywhere I went, I was my first time in Vegas, first time at All-Star. So it's across the board. It was a blast.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm so happy that you're here to join me. And we're on a strict schedule. I got a lot I want to go through with you, so we'll hop right into it.
Let's do it.
Starting from the top, because that's my first question for you. I think everyone kind of has the same idea for this question in terms of an answer, but I'm going to ask you how many losses that this team has as well. But who has the best record at the end of the regular season?
Oh, I mean, come on. Come on, it's the Aces. Nobody's catching them. Nobody's gonna be close to catching them. Like, and when you talk about losses, like, I mean, it can't be at this rate more than 5. Like at the absolute most, you know, like, which is insane. Like that's even like.
Could it be 4? Could they get to 4? Like
I think it's possible.
I didn't know if they did past 1 after so long.
Yeah, right. You know, like I don't have like this. I'd have to see like what teams they have, like at what certain stretches and like back to back things of that nature, like to try and pinpoint potential losses. But I mean, the machine that is the Aces right now might be the best basketball team I've ever seen. Like in my lifetime, like it might just be the best. Like that's it. Like it's not. I don't even know what to compare it to. Like it's insane what they're doing right now.
Well, Netyas Duncan pointing out like they could be the first team in WNBA history to have 4 all WNBA players, and it'd be very well deserved. I think 2 losses at this point. I think 5 is a good number at the end of the season. Like maybe a little bit of regression, going from 2 losses in the first half to 3 in the second half.
Yeah, but how dare they?
But no, I had the same thing. I just wrote aces when I was looking at this. We'll move on because that's pretty obvious there. But how about the worst record? Go to the opposite end. Who is going to be the worst team at the end of the regular season?
I'm gonna guess Phoenix.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of Phoenix and what they got going on. You know, it's just like obviously like. I've been really impressed with Onyenwere. I think she's definitely taken some steps this season. I mean, BG's BG, but ultimately, like, they're just not very good. Like, and there's a lot of teams with a lot of like you think about the teams around them. Like Seattle is only going to get better once Gabby Williams is fully into the rotation and everything. I mean, Jewel. Like Minnesota's picked it up now. Indiana still is. I mean, better than last season already. Like they seem like one of the few teams in the league that are still like, like I don't know how else to. They just don't really do it for me. So if I was to guess, I'd probably say them.
So I'll loop this around with Phoenix, Tyler, because before the season I had them solidly in the playoff path, and I had LA. That was the one team I couldn't figure out in the preseason. Yeah. I had LA dead last. That was so wrong about that. And
dead last is crazy. I didn't see the vision either. But dead last is kind of crazy.
I felt Phoenix. You did BG back, Mariah Jefferson, but no, I was between Phoenix and Seattle today in terms of worst record at the end of the season. I can see what you're saying with both of them. I think both of them though are going to be at the end of the season probably just going for that
Seattle
draft
ain't gonna be much better. They're gonna be better, but it ain't gonna be. We ain't talking leaps and bounds. Like,
well, and then with LA with their losing streak right now. Just because I had them at the start of the season back there, wouldn't it just be crazy?
Listen, you're preying on downfalls. That's what you're preying on. Downfalls.
No.
It's okay. Listen. It's okay. We got agendas to keep. It's okay, but that's what you're doing.
I wouldn't mind being correct over here. All right.
It never hurts to be right. It's okay. I'm not hating on it.
And I've admitted my faults there too, because I really do believe LA is a better team. But wouldn't it be crazy? We'll move on. Indiana. Will they make the playoffs? Should they make the playoffs?
Ooh. No, I don't think so. I think Minnesota looks really solid right now, down towards the bottom. I mean, you look at the teams like that were kind of like
Minnesota surprised me. I mean,
yeah, Minnesota. I mean, Fee has been cooking, absolutely cooking, and I mean they get Diamond back, and she came in pretty solidly. Like she was able to pick up more so where she left off a little bit. Like I mean, Aerial Powers is back now. Like they're gonna be very good. Like they're only getting better, right? And Indiana, while obviously this has already been a successful season, it could end right now, and this would already be a success for them. But I think the guard play, had they stole a couple of the games that were close earlier in the season that they ended up losing, we'd be in a completely different conversation. Even like 2 of those games, it's completely different. But the Sparks are getting healthy a little bit more now. Chicago is still iffy. But I just think you also look at the Wings and Dream that were kind of teetering at different points of the season are now on the up, and Washington's now down in the 6th seed, but they're going to get healthy again, and you have that level of talent. Like, as much as AB has been incredible this season, I don't think as a team that they're going to get all the way there. I just don't think there's room at this point.
Yeah, well, and at the halfway mark, it really sucked to see them at 5-15. They were a team that I had 9th heading into the season. I felt that was a little high at the time, and they're sitting in 10th right around when we're recording this. So, like you said, a successful season for me personally. I'm probably fine with missing the playoffs this year, knowing the draft classes in the next couple of seasons. I'll just throw that out there. I've been on that side of the bandwagon personally.
Me too. I'm right there with you on that one.
Especially you mentioned the guard play, and look at the guards.
There's a couple in there that are alright, you know. Like, there's a couple in there that might help you out a little bit if you need guard.
Just saying, I wouldn't mind losing a couple of games if you. New York, we'll move on.
Right.
You want to touch there real fast?
I mean, I guess for me, like Indiana, it's just right now. I'm not really worried about playoffs. I'm not worried about wins or losses. I'm worried about process. What are you achieving in these games? And like, for example, they have discovered Grace Berger, and you need to keep playing Grace Berger like that. Like it's, I know that was something that I was kind of championing at the beginning of the season, where it's like we just saw her in college playing with the dominant big. Like we know that she's able to do that because that's been the problem of the guards in Indiana, is that they haven't really been able to coincide with AB very seamlessly. So just figuring out who's here to stay, because you're building around AB. I don't care who you get in a trade, in a draft. I don't care. You're building around AB. So who is here to work with her? That's what they got to figure out. That's what their goal of this season should be, is to figure out what is the best way for us to use Aaliyah Boston in playoffs. If that happens, it happens.
That's fair. Good touching on Indiana. I'll also point out I'm a Chelsea Mitchell believer. I'll stand there. But then also Alyssa Smith. I'm going to give her some flowers before we move on to the New York Liberty, the team that we talked about last time that you were on the show here. And, I mean, a lot's happened. A lot has occurred. By the end of the season, though, that's the question here for us. Do you think that this team has it all pulled together?
Man, I mean, I think that they're going to be a formidable team because when you have Stewie, anything is possible. Like, I mean, it's that simple. You can put Stewie on any team in the league and it's going to be possible. But I just don't – I'm not seeing what I need to be seeing on the defensive side of the ball right now. And I don't think the rotations are from Sandy are trying to alleviate those defensive pains at all. I mean, you have KT, you have Laney. Like, these are solid defenders. Like, Jonquel, who has also just frankly been disappointing on the Liberty this season. She hasn't picked it up on the defensive end. Stewie is a very, very capable defender. Like, there's players here that are known to be good defenders, and it's just not happening, you know? And so until they get it figured out, like, in the playoffs, it's about defense. And because they might make it to the finals, maybe, but, I mean, you expected them to be on the level of Vegas, right? And frankly, now that the level we've seen in Vegas operating at, I don't think that's possible from any team in history that I've seen. But that was the expectation. And even if they are number 2 in the league coming into the playoffs, they just haven't reached the expectation.
Tyler, that was a little sneak peek that you just gave everybody for the end of the podcast in terms of picking a finals winner, finals MVP. Also a few names and a few scholars. Breanna Stewart as well. We'll talk about those names.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, but no, with New York, I think they will be better off than we look at them right now. I don't think they will live up to like the expectations that you're talking about. It might take another year, but I mean, for me personally, I just don't know about that guard trio, especially when it comes to a matchup with the team that you're talking about.
What are you supposed? Listen, that game in Vegas. Oh my God, it was just pick your poison.
I was so excited for it. I was so excited.
Yeah, like who wants it? They can get it. Whoever, it don't matter. Who wants it? Like, just it's like they were just rolling the dice every time they went down the floor, and it said, "Okay, Jackie, you can go for Sloot, and you can just go score." And then it was next time, "Okay, KP, oh, you got Sabrina? Okay, cool, you go score." Like, what are you supposed to do if you're New York? You know, and that's where you just got to start throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks with a KT or Laney or things like that. That's the stuff I want to see. But even in All-Star, I got to talk to Sabrina, and she was like, right now, we're at a 6.5. Like, that is where that she rated this team going or at the All-Star break, you know. And obviously now they've lost since then, and you know the Wings had, I think it was 2 turnovers, which is like tied for a league history record. Like, if the other team has 2 turnovers, the defense is not defensing the way it needs to. Like, that's just an issue.
That's a remarkable endpoint to New York right there. The defense is not defensing, and I think you should say that about New York until, like you said, they did it figured out. We started at the top here with the Aces. We went down to the bottom. Now we're just going to keep going down the standings. We hit New York, Connecticut. This team, which has lost Brianna Jones, we're both pretty big believers in Alyssa Thomas, which we will for sure talk about.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But do you think they are a top 3 team at the end of this regular season?
I think so. I mean, I think AT just, I mean, and not, I won't touch on her for too long, but like, I mean, just the engine of this team, like, and you have Bonner, who has really kind of come along, like, towards, like, this, I guess, second, fourth of the season. Like, you know, it took her a little bit to kind of get rolling a little bit, and then she started cooking. I think Dejanay Carrington has come in and has provided incredible minutes. I'm such a Ty Harris believer since forever. Like, I love a good point guard that can facilitate, and Ty Harris, it works for me, you know. Rebecca Allen has come in, been a top defender. She's been fantastic. So I mean, they have a solid balance of star players, role players. I think Ono has come in Bree Jones's absence and has provided what they need with her absence. Obviously, she's not going to come in and instantly replace Bree Jones. There's very few players that can come in and really do that. But Ono has been very capable. Like when she was guarding Brittany Griner in the game against the Mercury, she held her own. Like that's PG. Like that ain't no slap. That's PG. You know, and she did her thing. So at the end of it, like there's definitely teams surging right now, like Atlanta, Dallas, that can get there. But if I was to put money on it, I'd bet on Connecticut.
I feel the same way. I think 16-5 after a big win, same day of recording here. But like Alyssa Thomas, I love the lineup now where she's running the 5, and you didn't have spacing around her, which for so long was a problem with Connecticut. Now we get to this season, unfortunately, the Bree Jones injury.
Right.
And Tyler, the thing I've been pointing out when I've been talking about Connecticut is like for so many years it was. Maybe they have one too many bids, maybe a couple too many.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that they did to this year, and they drop one of those bids down low, and the super teams, the best teams in the league, each go and grab their second bid and have 2 of them.
It's they were just ahead of the curve, you know. That's all it was. But like even to that point where it's like going into the season, I was already high on Connecticut. Like Connecticut was not far off they definitely weren't a super team in my eyes, but they were such a complete team.
Yes.
Because I mean, like obviously losing Jonquel Jones is not a good thing. Like there's no way around that. But if a team was to lose their star player, I don't think any team was more prepared to do that than Connecticut, because it just allowed AT and Bonner and Jones before she was injured to do their thing that they're doing now. And I loved the moves they made in the offseason to surround them with solid role players. So like I don't see why, unless it's self-inflicted, they should be top 3.
You know, I had them in 4th coming into the year. They kind of were even better than I expected as someone who had Alyssa Thomas, Depoy, and Coach of the Year, Stephanie White. Like Alyssa Thomas just having all that room. Bree Jones able to step into a center spot.
Yeah.
Big fan of their moves. The team I had ahead of them, though, is who we're going to talk about next, and that's the Mystics. Someone that's near and dear to my heart. I covered them last year for Monumental Sports Entertainment, and I mean, at the time, I just felt like this was a team that always had a little bit of something that was just preventing them from being able to be the top 2 team.
It's offense. That's what it's called. It's offense. That's what I refer to it as. The thing that's missing is the ability to score the ball.
Oh man!
I mean, am I wrong? And listen, if you think I'm wrong, you feel free. But if I was to pick out something that they're missing, it's that.
So I think that there is a recipe for them with their current offensive system. I think, and you know, I'm on the NBA side. I'm a Boston Celtics fan. I think we saw the version of that with the Boston Celtics 2 seasons ago, and that was just like the best defense that anyone's ever seen in a generation. And you're gonna have switchy, great defensive guards, 2 bigs down low that can both get out in the perimeter a little bit. Yeah. And I think that's the recipe. I understand where you're coming from with the offense.
And don't get me wrong. Like the Mystics are still a very good team, and they are very. I think what's so frustrating is that the offense struggles when the defense is so good. Like, and I think that's what makes it so frustrating. Is like, even coming into the season, I saw some of the moves. I was like, okay, you got defense. Okay, some defense.
Yep.
Some more
Felt
defense.
the same way.
And it's like you're kind of, it's getting a little bit redundant, you know. So like they're very talented players. They are very good players. And obviously, I mean, Shakira gets hurt, terrible.
Elena Del Don
hurt, terrible. Like those are your 2 primary scorers.
That's gonna hurt
you know. And then you have whichever one of Atkins, Cloud, or Sykes kind of be that third, just kind of on a game by game basis. So when they're out hurt, you know, I mean, the tumbling down the standings, like they just can't catch a break. So that there is a recipe there, and especially in the playoffs with the defense, that could be dangerous. Like they're not like a regular season team to me. If you know, like but when they get to the playoffs, if they get healthy, I wouldn't want to be, especially if they're down lower. I would not want to be a top seed matching up with the Mystics in the first round.
Well, and also worth pointing out, too, for this team, it's under a rookie head coach who's still sorting things out.
Yeah.
So, like, I see what you're saying with the playoffs. I don't know about this team, so I'll ask you the question that we've got here. Where do you see them ending up heading into the playoffs? Whether that is getting up to third, whether that's falling out of the top 5, like.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, to me, it really is just an injury-based thing. Like, because I mean, so it's kind of hard to even predict because a Mystics team with EDD and Shakira is different than just having one of them versus having neither of them. You know, like, so figuring out where it's hard, it really is just based on how lucky they get with these injuries, you know, and it feels like they just can't catch a break. So, like, I mean, at this moment right now, like, damn near their whole starting 5 is out injured. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. Like, and that's not anyone's fault. It's just the reality of the situation, you know? So, I mean, until they get healthy, I don't see them, and especially with the trajectory of Atlanta and Dallas right now, I mean, it's hard to put them in the top 5 just because of their health.
No, that's very fair. It just sucks because, like I said, this is a team where I just felt always just a little bit off, like just missing that piece of consistency throughout. And the injuries are the main point there. Obviously, it's a flawed roster, but I still feel like I said, the recipe's there. If they could put all the pieces together,
it's a very capable roster. Like this is a very talented roster. Like, it really is. It's a little bit of an odd fit, and then you mix that in with injuries and having to try and fit puzzle pieces in the spots that they probably don't go in. Like, it's just kind of bound to lose you some games.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, we'll move on. Washington, I've described them as a conundrum all season.
Yeah.
A team on a much higher note, a team I had 5th coming into the year, and now, like, the sky's the limit. Seven straight wins prior to today. But Atlanta, how high can they go?
As high as Leash and Ryan want to take them, because that duo is disgusting. That duo is insane. Like, I had seen the vision, like, whenever they made the move for Leash, like, it clicked instantly in my head. But it took them a little bit of time to really get the ball rolling. And then ever since Ryan did not get that All-Star selection initially, the whole league's been on notice. It's, you could get a bucket, you could get a bucket, you could get a bucket. And nobody's safe. And I even asked her, like, at All-Star, I was like, listen, like, now that you're here as an All-Star, like, I think I said word for word, like, is the league safe? Like, you've been on, like, like, you've been hooping. And she was like, no, nobody's safe. And I was like, oh my God, it scared me. Like, I don't even gotta guard you, and that scared me. So I mean, like, what they're doing, I mean, it really is however far that those two take them. I mean, like, the guard play has, I think, gotten better with D-Rob. I mean, Cheyenne Parker, also an all-star. It's been weird. I don't know what's going on with her right now, not starting. A little weird. I feel like we haven't heard anything, at least that I've seen. But I mean, obviously a very capable big. She's impressed me this season. Like, she's done better than I had anticipated going into it. But ultimately, Leash and Ryan are going to be what decides this team's fate.
Yeah, Ryan Howard, I mean, she was not on my all-star ballot. I just... yeah, I know.
See? This is partially your fault. The league is under watch because of you.
Hey, I didn't have any official ballot. Yeah, this ain't my fault.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, though, if it is on me, I am so happy that we're getting this out because of that. Like,
yeah,
she has been awesome. And a name that we will get into here shortly in the awards, I am certain of. Lastly, here, before we get to the end of kind of the regular season rankings, I'll touch on Dallas with you. Yeah. Where the question is, how high do they end up? For me, like, this Dallas Wings team has baffled me all season long. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I don't know who is the true version of the Dallas Wings.
Yes.
Well, any thoughts? Please help me.
I'm pretty much right there with you, but this version that we're seeing right now is deadly. Like, Lowe had mentioned it at the committee live event. She was like, she says Vegas versus Dallas in the finals, and I looked at her. I was like, I don't know about that one. but then I watched this game against New York, and I was like, what was she cooking? Because this is kind of starting to make sense.
What
you
did
know,
she
like,
know?
like what did she? I mean, low no ball. Like it's that simple. Low no ball. But I mean, Arike, like being able to, she's finding the balance finally of creating her own shot versus working within the system. I mean, Natasha Howard, like Dallas looks like the winners of the 3-team trade right now for Jonquel. Like, Natasha Howard has been better than Jonquel this year.
That's true.
Crystal Dangerfield has been doing her absolute thing.
And would help so much for this Liberty team.
Yeah, I mean they're winning. Like, it's all working right now. They're starting to operate. I was, like I said, early in the season, it was like, okay, you see flashes here, then flashes here, then but now it's looking pretty good. The defense is starting to work. LT, that's been her thing. That has been her thing, is defense. And they have bought in on that side. And seeing on the offensive side, just having more movement as a team, just as a whole, where it's just not Satu or Arike, like, all right, go get us a bucket. Like, it's actual movement. Like, the first, I think it was like 3 or 4 possessions against the Liberty at the beginning of the game, had just 4 really solid sets, getting different players involved, and not all of them were makes, but just seeing that process being gone through on the offensive side is so encouraging, and it's part of why they're on the upward tick now.
I mean, it's been someone I have been concerned about, and Arite's efficiency right off the bat to start the season was like, whoa, hold on now.
Yes.
But I mean, to see where she's come to, she's grown so much. She looks incredible. Arike, just awesome to watch. And yeah, I didn't really think about the winners of a 3-team deal, but that makes a lot of sense.
It's looking like it.
Yeah,
it's looking like
it is. And like, I was just thinking about like New York needing some of that perimeter defense. Crystal Dangerfield. I don't know. I think it could help.
It would be nice.
But okay, so we touched on half the leads right at the top here.
Yeah.
And we've touched on a few of the bottom dwellers.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, who are the last 2 in the playoffs?
Oh, God, I gotta think. Hold on. If the Sparks get healthy, I can see them. And I think the Lynx, just because Fee is going to carry them there herself at this rate. Like, I mean, she wasn't in my MVP list prior to very recent just because of the record. But they're in the playoffs now. Like,
getting right up there.
Like, since she's come back, it's been nasty what she's been doing to the league. So I think we see the Sparks getting healthier now. I think that's very possible that they're the last team in. But Minnesota as well.
Yeah, I went with Chicago actually, and not Minnesota. I went with the Sparks. Trying to help out.
Right. See, you're giving me mixed messages here about the Sparks. You're giving me mixed messages.
I told you what I would like to see come true, and I told you what I think is coming true, and I think the Sparks are actually pretty good.
It.
Yeah,
they are. They just need to get healthy. It's very similar to the Mystics, not the same level, but it's similar issues.
Yeah. I mean, this LA team, we touched on it enough. But okay, that's fair to close out your rankings. Let's get right into awards here as we're coming down the stretch, and we'll do it real fast. I'll start things off. But I'll tell you, kind of the way I look at it, it's real fluid. Where I'm seeing my awards picks right now, that's my prediction at the end of the year as well. And we'll just start right from the top with most improved player.
Most improved. I got Jordan Canada as mine. I think that the jump that she's taken has been amazing, and it's a part that's even keeping the Sparks team semi afloat right now. Yeah, I mean the defense. I mean it's across the board. Awesome. Like it's been amazing for them, and she's really kind of set herself apart from all the other guards that the Sparks have, because they got plenty of point guards, and she's been able to kind of set herself apart.
No, I like that name. I actually went with kind of Alexi Brown, and she was third in my list, but Satu. Yeah. I think Satu has to be.
Satu, yeah. I mean, for me, Satu is also in my top 3. It's like I think what puts Jordan above her for me is that Jordan, I was like, oh, that's kind of okay, cool. But for Satu, it's like, oh, you're healthy, because I've always seen the vision with
That's fair.
like the Satu talent that's not a shock to me. She just needed to be healthy, and the improvement has come from consistency within her health.
So I'm gonna like obviously healthier, gonna play more. I think the rebounding is off the charts right now, scoring up to around 20.
Yeah, somewhere
but
around
then
there.
The shooting percentages for me, like those things bumping up, that's a lot of improvement. The passing too. But no, I think that's very fair. I've been a Satu fan as well, but right above Ezzy for me, who was my preseason pick.
Got you. That's valid. That's valid.
We'll go into sixth player of the year off the bench. Who do you like?
Man, this one was tough. I like Dana Evans. I'm a Dana Evans truther through and through. I think Kia Stokes should get a shout as well, because the stats aren't there, but man, she knows her role coming off the bench
Very good.
Perfectly. So those were the first two that came to mind. I think Dana Evans is probably the most talented bench player right now. Like I mean, she could go start on many other teams if she wasn't on Chicago. They're so loaded at the guard position, but I think that she would be my pick currently, and Kia Stokes getting a shout for sure.
So no Alicia Clark.
See, that was the other one. I was like, damn, I can't give everyone on Vegas an award. Like, but no, Alicia Clark. Like, I love what Kia Stokes brings. Like I said, it's not a statistical thing at all. Like it's
impact. Yeah.
It feels like she's like always where she needs to be, and like even though they don't have the deepest bench or the most talented on paper, the Vegas bench understands their roles so well whenever they come into the game and mix in with the starters. So like if Alicia Clark was who someone wanted to pick from Vegas, I have no quarrel with that at all. I love me some Kia Stokes.
So preseason I had Sammy Whitcomb. Now I'm going with Alicia Clark. I honestly didn't imagine the Aces would be as good as they have been.
Yeah.
So I give that award out to. I'll give that to LV.
That's very valid. That is, I have no quarrel with that at all.
All right, give me your all defense teams.
This was tough. Like I got it over here. I got Asia, Brittany Sykes, Ezzy, AT, and Jordan Canada. That's my first.
Yeah,
five.
first team. Okay.
That is my first time. Second team, I got BG, Rebecca Allen, Elizabeth Williams, Natasha Cloud, Ariel Atkins.
Hold on, where did you say Alyssa Thomas's name in this?
And in the first team.
Okay, good. I was like, hold on.
Yeah, don't worry. You know what's I respect AT's game over here. That is, that was tough though. Trying to decipher through those.
I had some names, but I ended up going with Jordan Tana, Brittany Sykes at the guard spots. My forwards, Alyssa Thomas, Asia Wilson, and then Ezzy as my 5 on that first team. Yeah. So I think we might have had the same team right there.
We had the same. Yeah.
That's something else.
Makes me feel better about it because I was stressing over those picks. I was deciphering through the league, like trying to go through rosters. Like man, like I was struggling.
And my second team, like I went with Alicia Clark. It's tough because of the minutes for Alicia Clark. I just felt like her impact.
I have no problem with that. Yeah. I have no problem with that.
Went with her along with Ariel Atkins at kind of the guard spots, former teammates, and then my forwards. I thought Natasha Howard leading
that's very valid.
Top 5, top 4 defense.
Yeah, I probably would put her in my second. Yeah.
Over there valid. With Bruce Stewart and again, like the Aces as the best defense, I just felt deserved more. I gave them Candace Parker as well.
I have no problem with it. Like I said, that's tough. Building those defensive teams are tough.
Incredibly tough. All right. We'll jump over and on down because I guess excuse me. We'll go right into Defensive Player of the Year off of that.
Yeah.
Who do you like? From your first team.
Asia. I got Asia. Like, I mean, the blocks are higher. She's the anchor of this Vegas defense. Like, the perimeter players have stepped up. I think KP's defense and Jackie's defense has also stepped up, which has helped. But I mean, that's Asia Wilson. That's Asia Wilson, and that defense has not declined whatsoever. Like, the stats have only gotten better with that. I see no reason for it to not be her.
All right, I start with my preseason pick, and Alyssa Thomas is my defensive player of the year.
That's valid.
I think she's just the best defensive player in the world. Her ability to switch, also guard bids, like was handling Cheyenne Parker tonight, or this afternoon rather. And like the versatility that she brings, while also having like some of the best hands in the W. I think she's second in steals per game. While also
I believe so. It's crazy. I mean, she's not a real basketball player. Like, it doesn't make sense that she exists. Like what she's able to do.
Exactly. But no, Asia definitely my second, my runner up there.
Yeah.
All right, give me your all rookie team.
This was tough too because this class was way deeper than I anticipated.
Yes.
Going into the season, like I thought this was gonna be 3-4 players deep. Honestly, like that we saw at least directly make an impact in this first year.
All right, you know what, Tyler? Stop me where you don't have the same player. I got Aaliyah Boston on here.
Okay.
Diamond Miller.
Yep.
Jordan Horston.
Yep.
Ivana Dojtic.
Yep.
All right, and then my last one, I slid with Dorothy Uhas.
I got
All right.
here.
I was right there with Morgan Birch and Dorothy Uhas because
I
just
put
hasn't played
Dorothy.
enough.
Yeah, and I think Grace Berger would be on there if she started playing earlier in the season.
Yeah.
I would have her on there. She just hasn't played enough.
She can run a good offense. All right.
But she's here to stay.
That's crazy that we're the same rookie of the year, rookie teams, that is. How about a rookie of the year, obviously?
I think we probably got the same one for that, too.
Aaliyah Boston, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, it ain't even.
Rookie of the year, that was a pretty easy one. So as we move on, kind of executive of the year, I think this one could be a little bit more contentious. Who do you have?
Yeah. So I have, Natalie Williams from the Aces. Come on. You built this. I also have a couple others. Jonathan Kolb from the Liberty. It's not looking amazing right now, but that roster is stacked. And
Yes,
that ain't
it
on him. That ain't on him. And then lastly, and this one I had to convince myself of. Okay. Greg Bibb with the Wings. And it all comes down to that 3-team trade. Because right now they're winning it. And I wasn't sure going into the season exactly what the plan was. You also include the Kalani Brown signing.
Fantastic.
It's been amazing. Odyssey Sims has been really solid. Like they've been working the waiver wire. Like they've been doing their thing there. The draft, awful. I stand by that. The draft made no sense to me. But taking the draft out, he's been making some moves. But ultimately, when you construct this Aces team, like I don't know how I give it to anybody else.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you how.
Okay.
Because after what happened with De'Arca Hamby, I think that makes it a little bit tough, and that was my thinking before the season. Obviously, it's a no-brainer and an insane upgrade to go get Candace Parker, as well as reestablish that bench, which was the main concern last year. So obviously basketball-wise, I think you're there. I think that's a little tough, but obviously the success is unprecedented, though.
With Hamby, I think regardless of, obviously, the situation could have definitely possibly been handled a little bit better. But ultimately, I think 10 times out of 10, no matter what the situation is, that's the move they make. Because Hamby was making a lot of money, and Candace Parker is Candace Parker. So while I understand where you're coming from, I also think that ultimately, no matter what the circumstances were, the Aces were making that move. So I don't hold that too much. Again, and obviously, all the different things that has been going on with the Aces, that's kind of come in the punishment, whatever. It's been laid out, and that's what it is. So I guess I've kind of just moved past it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, the punishment's there. Like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do about it. So, that's kind of where I stand on that.
I think we have an obligation to take the whole season into account.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But all in all, I still went with Darius Taylor and Connecticut as executive of the year.
that's a very valid pick. Like the players that they've been able to put around their stars has been very, very well done. Like they handled losing a former MVP just about as good as they possibly could have. Like that's a very valid pick for sure.
Exactly, and I think the success this year helps. I was the same way with Jonathan Told in New York. If it was all working as well as it should be, that'd be my way.
And we say that as if they're not second in the W right now as well. You know what I mean?
There are some obvious concerns, though.
And that's what's crazy. That's like the standard for them is so high, and it should be.
That's fair.
But that's just the reality of when you're marketed as a super team. It's supposed to be the Aces versus Liberty, but it's looking like the Aces versus right now because ain't nobody coming close. So, but I'm right there with you where it's like, hey, the roster, it adds up to me. The roster, like when you stack a roster with that much talent, that's on the coach to figure it out at that point.
And a lot of season left. We talked about where we expect to see this team by the end of it. But yeah, in terms of prediction, I find it interesting you point out Dallas. The last team for me was Atlanta with Dan Padover. I just think the way that they're propelling themselves up the standings, I think if that continues on, all of their moves, LA and Haley Jones drafted, that starts to look pretty good. Alicia Gray, obviously, awesome pickup. Anyway, Coach of the Year.
Go ahead. I want to hear you.
Yeah, Stephanie White. I'm sticking with my preseason pick. I'm doing it.
Oh, I got Becky. I don't think they're gonna give it to her, but I got Becky. I'm sorry. If you got this team looking like this, like obviously there's so much.
They should
talent.
look like this.
So should the Liberty.
And
they don't.
Nowhere near my Coach of the Year rankings.
So we got to give Becky some credit because the talent is on paper looking like it is on the court, whereas the Liberty, I'd argue, have potentially more talent on paper when you look at the entire bench,
top to bottom. Yeah,
and it ain't doing nothing for me. It's not. So when you have a team operating at this level, exactly, it's not. So I still give it to Becky. With Stephanie White would probably be my 2, and Latricia Trammell from Dallas would be.
That's a good
call.
Like
whichever one that Stephanie White isn't in between 2 and 3, like they're neck and neck for me. But still, I have Becky just above them because it's the most beautiful basketball I've ever seen.
That's a fair point. I think you add Candace Park to this team, it should look like, and it is. So some credit is due there.
Yeah.
I'll also shout out Tanisha Wright. I'm just something about Atlanta for me. I've been talking about it on recent podcasts. I just really like that dream team. Yeah,
I like the team. Honestly, I haven't been super impressed with Tanisha Wright. I don't think that the offense has been looking as fluid as it should have been. We heard a lot about read and reacting.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better. But like when we're talking about the full season and like what we want to see, like when it comes to, I feel like it's more so Leash and Ryan are knowing how to play together now, whereas versus a system being put in place by Tanisha. Whereas Dallas, for example, I feel like this is a system being put in place and being activated on the court, which is where the difference is for me when it comes to the coaching.
That's a fair argument. Honestly, I like that. I'll take that. A lot of it's going to come down to, like, obviously with many of these awards, the top 3 teams are going to dominate a lot of them. Right. And so I think I lean Atlanta just because I see them finishing a little bit better than Dallas. But honestly, with LA and the system that she's put in, that's a great point that you make there. We'll hop on over to the all WNBA teams because I think this is very interesting.
Yeah. My first team is pretty set in stone as of this moment. It's Alyssa Thomas. Yeah, we can do it. I'll read mine, and you let me know when we go off the rails. Okay?
All right.
I got Alyssa Thomas, Asia Wilson, Stewie, Jackie Young, and Jewel Lloyd.
There we go.
The first team is pretty set in stone, and the thing is, the second team is stacked.
Oh,
Like but the thing is, the first team is just hooping like that nobody can crack into it. Like the fact that this is about to be a season where Fee isn't first team.
Yes, and the season that she's having.
Yes, it's insanity, but it's the reality.
Yeah, all 5 of those players, like, there's a reason we each have them.
Yeah.
Like they're having phenomenal seasons, and I think as we get to the bottom 5 here, the second team All WNBA, it was hard to pick just 5. And so I'm curious. I thought I had 9 that I felt good about.
Yeah.
I want to know if you agree with my last 4 before we get to that final spot.
Got you.
So I'll go Nafisa Collier, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I have Chelsea Gray.
Mm-hmm.
I have Arike.
Mm-hmm.
And Netta. Mm-mm. You don't have Netta. Okay, I think Netta's a lot.
I was very, very. It was like I had like the slashes for like my last 3. Necca's like right there. I don't know. Now I'm like convincing myself. I was like, yeah, she probably should be in it. Like it's so tough.
The season
it's so tough.
she's having, it's been like up there with her MVP years.
Yeah,
MVP year, excuse me.
Yeah, I probably. Yeah.
Well, and
yeah,
there's a lot of season left to be played.
Right. And for me, like where I kind of divided was, I think Aaliyah Boston has been incredible. I think DeWanna Bonner deserves some recognition as well. Like, and so those filling out my last 2 spots between those 3 is where I really struggled.
Okay, who'd you go with?
I on my list here, like when you say Neck, I'm like, yeah, she probably should be in it. Like I did write down Aaliyah and Bonner. But like now I'm thinking about it, I was like, yeah, Nneka should probably be. I just don't know which one to put it up. It's so hard to try and decide. But our first 3 were the same with the 2 guards and feet. I think Kelsey Plum has an argument that could potentially be made, but she just started off a little slow. But you
talk about
shooting, BG as well. Like it's so there's just so much talent. Like it's incredible what the league look like. It's so stacked. It's so stacked right now, and that makes these decisions so hard. Like there's probably like 10 players worth that you could put on the second team, and I'd be like, okay, that valid. You know, like I might not go with that person, but that's valid. You know, and that's incredible.
The talent in the league, it's awesome. There's a reason everyone's talking about expansion. So we have like 8 locks, like between the 2 of us. Mm-hmm. And so as I look on the end of the season, my 9th was Netta, and then my last spot, I was like, okay, so you've got a couple of teams that are both going up the standings right now, doing really well. Someone who's been on a rampage. And someone who just has been the healthiest she's ever been, to give you a little hint. I was between Ryan Howard and Satu Sabali for my last spot.
I think that's upletely valid. I throw Alicia Gray in there too. Like
yes,
like
there's
just not enough room. Like there's just not like the amount of incredible play right now. Like it's. I mean, Ryan, like going into the season, Ryan was my like sleeper MVP pick, and what we're seeing now, like I don't think that she's in that conversation, or like I don't think she hit that level. But this level that we're seeing currently, this stretch, this is MVP Ryan Howard that I was trying to be like, hey, y'all better watch out. And it took a little bit into the season, but I'm telling you, the coaches who picked the reserves wrote their own death sentence with Ryan Howard because she is on a rampage. Like there's so many players that could go on this second team. The first team, I'll argue about the first team. The second team, it's wide open.
Yeah, I'd be fine with you to put any list of names alongside a couple of those locks that I really liked, like Chelsea Gray. I think it's kind of a non-negotiable. Nafisa Collier,
right?
But oh my gosh. But yeah, all WNBA teams. I'm started with Ryan Howard. I'm gonna stand there for right now.
Yeah, that's valid. That is incredibly valid, and she is gonna. It seems like she's gonna continue proving you right, because even in when they're not like they didn't win today, she still was very good.
Oh,
so like, I mean, there's not enough that could be said about what the run that she's on right now.
All right, we'll wrap up here with MVP, and we're gonna do our
Yeah.
top 5 here on this one.
Okay.
Because and I'll tell you who I had before the season, and it didn't age well. I was between two members of this team, and it was Bree Jones and Alyssa Thomas, and I went with Bree Jones, thinking, hey,
Oh, you almost had it.
I know,
You
right?
almost had it. You
But-
almost had it.
I'd say the Achilles injury helps me out a little bit, but since like game 2 of the season, I was like, okay, I was wrong. It's Alyssa
Yeah,
Thomas.
it's
She
Alyssa
is the
Thomas.
MVP of this team, and frankly,
Yeah.
MVP of the league. So I'll start from 5. I got Nafisa Talia right now at 5th, Jewel Lloyd at 4th. I got Asia
I
at
do
3rd.
not-
You do not have Jewel Lloyd at all.
I do not have Jewel Lloyd, and I'll tell you why. It's not a performance thing. MVP, I consider team success in. All WNBA, I do not, and that's why I have Jackie Young in my top 5
Oh,
over Jewel, and it's not. It literally just comes down to the fact that Seattle they're not winning right now.
Yeah.
Like they're not in the play. For me, I feel like I think I'd be willing to give grace to pretty much like 6 and up, because there has to be, if you're the most valuable player, what are you valuable towards if you're not winning? That's kind of my thought process with it, and that's like I said, Jewel's his first team to me, and that's more individual, whereas most valuable, I feel like there's a more of a team component for that, and like Feed
Yeah.
just cracked my top 5 because they're winning now. Like the performances have been there, but now they're actively in the playoff hunt. Like they're actively going for it, and so I had no problem putting her in there now. But that is why I don't have Jewel in there.
so, like I had to point to like the points per game. Obviously, playing insane minutes,
Yeah.
pretty good efficiency. But I think the winning is a very valid argument. I think that would be why I have her 4th. I think I
Yeah.
would say that's the way I
mean,
would go with
if
that.
they're like a top 6 team right now, I'm not sure that she's not first.
The
like, it's-
MVP, yeah.
like the performances have been off the charts. I just need a little bit more winning from my MVP picks, and that's kind of just the personal preference that comes with these awards as well, because there's not really a criteria at all. It's just kind of my own
Yeah.
like guidelines for it, I guess.
So do you have Jackie penciled in there at 4?
Yes, and that's Fee closing in quick. Like,
Yes.
Like, and my list is so like fluid right now. My
Yeah.
top 5, honestly, and like Fee, like she might be a win away, honestly, from just jumping up. Like it is. Everyone is so like 4 and 5 are very close, and then 1 through 3 are pretty close as well for me.
Yeah, are you the same way with Asia at 3, Stewie at 2, and then Alyssa Thomas at 1?
I just today moved Asia up, but Alyssa,
Ooh.
I have Alyssa, Asia, Stewie right now
Okay.
because.
Explain that difference.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Stewie has been incredible. It's just like I said, you're the best player on the best team I've ever seen, and
Of all time.
and yeah,
Yeah.
like for me that has to mean like somebody is the catalyst for them setting these records. And there's a different MVP every night for the Aces, and I think that's definitely like a valid argument against against an ace winning the MVP. It's just because every other night, like, I mean, I got another ace in my top 5, so it's a valid argument why not. But I mean, there's been no decline from Asia,
Yeah.
like at all, and they're
Gotten a little
making
better.
history. Yeah, if anything, it's just she's just going up still, which is insane. So that's the only reason. Like, I think the implications of like the history that they're making and the basketball that she's playing, like, puts her. And like, I literally made that move today. Like, I think I did a video on like Monday, and Stewie was second. Like, it really just changes that quick. It really does. So you could ask me tomorrow, and my answer might be different. But right now, I do have, and also, like I said, the Liberty, like, we talked about it. I mean, there's question marks there. They're not I think it was. It might have been
I don't know
Logan.
where they are if it's not
Yeah,
for.
it's not a super team. It's a super woman. Is I think what Lowe said.
Yeah.
And yeah, and she has been. She's been absolutely super. But that team has. They've gotten the kryptonite put in them a couple times. Like, it was not. They ain't looking too super very often. So
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that's a good place to be. Like I said, I think the Liberty will wrap up the regular season just a little bit better than how they have looked. I don't think they will be the super team that we all hoped.
Yeah.
So I have Stewie second as my
I have no problem with that
prediction right now. But I'm glad we're on the same boat with Alyssa Thomas because
I mean, she's number 2 in assist. Like there's no other non-guards in the top 13 or 14. Like what? And then you add that to her rebounds. You add that to the
top
scoring.
5 in rebounding.
Yeah, something. She's up there. Like the thing is, and then just the history. Because the thing with MVPs, right? For me, individual performance is top priority. Team success, and where would this team be without you is another thing that I think of. And I don't know where the Sun would be without Alyssa Thomas right now, frankly, because she is the heart, the engine, whatever you want to call it, of everything that they do. Like she can play 1 through 5. Like they couldn't be asking her to do more. And yet she's still making history and has the kind of storyline that you need for an MVP argument with the triple doubles, with the Jonquel leaving and Bree Jones getting hurt. She has everything that you need to make an MVP argument, which is why she's my number 1.
Yeah, the 3 triple doubles in a week, like.
Bro, people don't do that in a season across the league, and she did it in 1 week. Like. That's she did you have that's your storyline almost if you want to push like this MVP made history like this has never been done before.
All right, MVP. We're kind of along the same lines there.
Yeah.
Going into power rankings.
Yeah.
Lastly here, I guess before finals, although we've talked a lot about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I kind of look at this as like where I see this team ending up in terms of the power rankings. Like, obviously, how hot they are right now factors in. That's obviously most people's power rankings is kind of a recency bias. But for me, I'm gonna start this off with I still have obviously the Aces 1, but I still have New York 2. I don't think that there's a team that's better than them right now. And still second in the standings. That I'm starting with that there. Who do you have kind of in second?
I agree. Okay. I agree with New York. Like I'm incredibly critical on New York because the standard.
It's such a high standard.
But in the grand scheme of the W, they're still the second best team in the league. Like it's just what the goals that they want to reach, which is beating Vegas, they're not anywhere near there right now. So it's both can be true in my eyes.
So before the Bree Jones injury for Connecticut, I kind of had them a tier above, but now I see kind of this 3 through maybe 9, 3 through 8. 9 is pretty generous.
That's deep.
I see
3 through 8 is deep.
You know, okay, maybe 3 through 6. All right,
I can work with that.
I see that as kind of a tier of its own where. I think it could be anyone in those slots, but right now, my power rankings at this moment, I'm like I said, I've been pretty high on Atlanta all year. I have them in 3rd. Obviously, the loss to Connecticut, but that Connecticut is that's who that is. So I got Atlanta 3, I got Connecticut 4, I got Dallas 5th, and that drops Washington all the way back to 6th for me.
Yeah.
How do you see that shaking up right now?
I'm not that high on Atlanta yet. I think that they have if they were to get to that point with the way they're playing right now, I would not be surprised.
Tyler, let me touch you off real fast because I think it's like for me, I love switchy defenses. Mm-hmm. I just think there's so many versatile defenders.
But I'm not putting them over Connecticut. I'm not. That's my MVP for a reason. That's your MVP for a reason. That Alyssa Thomas is doing her thing. Honestly, like I think that Vegas is a tier of their own. But you talk about the tiers. I'd put the Liberty and the Sun in the same tier.
Oh, okay.
And I would have 2 and 3 as a tier, and then 4, 5, 6 being their own tier. Which I think right now I'd have Dallas, Atlanta, and then Washington. And like I said earlier, Washington, that's just an injury thing. That's it's like if they're healthy, they're 4. Like they were 4 coming into the season for me.
It affects where I see them ending up. So
yeah. It's just right now, like that's just the reality. And like I said, I don't want to be the high seed that has to play Elena Del Don and Shakira Austin, assuming that they're both back and healthy in the first round. That sounds absolutely terrifying. But right now, I think Dallas is looking extremely complete right now. They are on their way to that 4 seed, which would be so big for them because of the way they play at home. Atlanta 5, Washington 6.
Yeah.
Right now for me, but those 3 are all, like I said, all in the same tier for me. Any order of that within those 3 seeds would not shock me by any means.
You know, and you're making me question the Connecticut and Atlanta flipping. Obviously, Connecticut winning today. I don't see Connecticut in the same tier as New York, only because New York has handled their business against Connecticut so far this year.
That's valid. That's valid.
So, like, I could even see several tiers, because New York's not Las Vegas. That's just not where that is right now.
No.
And I do see a little bit of separation between New York and Connecticut, but they're right there.
Yeah.
I really like the upside on this Atlanta team. I think they're going to continue to figure things out. I thought that, like, the 7-game win streak before today.
Yeah, incredible. And like I said, like, if they end up the 3 seed with the way that they're rolling and they have been, that's not a shock to me.
Yeah,
like, I'm not picking it, but that's not at all, like, I would not be like, what? Like, it's not going to be some jaw drop moment if they're able to keep that momentum rolling by any means.
So this gets a little tough for me, kind of wrapping up the power rankings, because I know, like I said, this is kind of a projection of what I see to end the year. But obviously the Sparks have lost 6 in a row as of time of recording. Yeah. So
it's tough. And
where do you have the Sparks? Because that's kind of my question mark team.
The Sparks, they're so tough. Like, that last playoff spot, I love what I've been seeing from Minnesota. Like, I think that they're going to end up at 7. Like, and I feel pretty solid about that. That last seed, man, I don't know, man. Like, I said the Sparks earlier, and, like, if they're healthy and NECA keeps doing what she's doing, like, it makes sense to me, like, to see them finish in that point. Like, obviously it's been awful recently, but, like, the vibes in the Sparks locker room seem to still just be like, I don't know what we're supposed to do with this, rather than, like, frustration. You know, it's kind of like, we're not doing anything wrong. You know, we just can't get healthy. You know, and their roster coming into the season was something that I also was a little bit questionable about, similar to Washington, where it's just like, you got a lot of point guards, you got a lot of bigs, and nothing in between.
Yes.
And so that's something that's been a struggle for them. It's similar to, like, 4 through 6, where it's like 8 through 10. It's tough. I think with the way NECA has been playing, if they get healthy, they would be my pick to end in that 8 seed. But it really is similar to Washington, where it's like, if they don't get healthy, then it's not happening. But it seems like they're heading on that track now.
Yeah, gosh, Tyler, that's tough.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you on Minnesota. I actually have them in 8th. And then I'm like flipping between Chicago and LA, just wrapping up the year better. And I'll stick to my guns. I had Chicago. We'll put them there.
Ka is so tough. Their guard play is incredible. Their big rotation has been better than I had anticipated.
I can't wait for Isabel Harrison to come back.
Yes. So, like I said, that last playoff spot, like, I feel pretty comfortable with the way Minnesota is trending to put them in 7 and set them there. But that last spot could be, like, Chicago wouldn't surprise me. Indiana is a little bit farther behind. But, I mean, they got microwaves on that team that could heat up at any point. Like, so it's going to be a fun playoff race just across the board, figuring out where all these teams end up seated up. Because there's so many. The little pockets within the standings are tight. And it's going to be fun.
Yeah, okay. So we kind of wrap that up. And that leaves us 10. I have the Fever there. I think that's a great place for them to wrap up the year.
Yeah, I agree.
And then to close that out, kind of, I'm going to say Phoenix finishes with a better record than Seattle. But I know we're coming all the way back around.
No.
Hey,
I think Seattle has a higher chance of finishing with a better record than Indiana than they do finishing below Phoenix.
Okay.
I think with Gabby Williams coming back, Jewel Lloyd hooping, like, Dojkic continuing to play better, Horston continuing, like, I see that more as a possibility. I am not a fan of Phoenix and what they got going on over there at all. Like I'm just not. There's no vision that I'm seeing with the Mercury finishing anything above last.
Hey,
right
the win from a couple of nights ago
didn't do anything for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, congrats, but nah, you're still down at the bottom for me.
Well, and Seattle disappointed me kind of towards the All-Star break. I think, like, because I that little momentum stretch that they had right before that, I was like, okay, all right, Seattle like making a little bit of a push, maybe up to 10-9, and not so much. So
No.
I'll go with Seattle as my last seed right now.
Yeah, I think Jewel Lloyd is you're gonna win some games just off the back of her performances alone. Which, like, some of these games gotta shake out their way at some point with the way that she's playing.
That's fair. I'll give and 2 All-Stars too on that team. So all right.
Yep.
We'll wrap this up here with your Finals MVP and therefore your champion at the end of the year.
I mean,
mine hasn't changed.
Yeah. I mean, the Ace is the champion. Man, it's so tough to pick because it really could be any of that starting lineup. You know, I think nobody shines brighter when the lights are on than Chelsea Gray.
All right.
And I mean, clutch time Chelsea Gray might be the greatest basketball player I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think she's ever missed a shot below 2 minutes. Like, don't fact check me, but
it's got to be like 77, 80%.
Right. Like it's like genuinely insane. Like clutch time Chelsea Gray is my favorite player I've ever been able to watch on an individual level. Like, and because of that, like, it makes, like, it just adds up when it comes to, I'm thinking, big moments in the finals if the games are even close. Like, Chelsea Gray comes in, but you can't go wrong with anyone in that starting lineup. Whether Asia would be my next pick, but, like, it could be Jackie, it could be, the whole starting lineup, man. It's not even, you could just put like a random, like a little wheel and spin it, and whichever name it comes up, and you could pick them for me, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that works for me.
That's a great point, because like you did see Jackie Young having like the series of her life. You did see Chelsea Plum going nuclear. Obviously, Chelsea Gray, we've seen it already. Candace Parker, like if they end up being in a good series at the end, and you just did vintage Candace Parker like she did last year in the playoffs. But no, I went with Asia Wilson. I think she's going to go get her MVP.
I would not be shocked by that at all, and making a statement with that one, like with this fight. Especially if she goes against the regular season MVP again, and then goes against the finals. I mean, you're undeniable at that. I mean, she already is, but like you're undeniable at that point.
All right, tell me who are they beating?
Man,
I
want to say I don't know if the Liberty can defend in the playoffs. I'm tempted. Low has got in my head.
Are you doing it?
I'm tempted to say Dallas. I'm tempted. I really do think, like, not to cop out, but I really do think it is like a playoff matchup type thing. But man, if Connecticut stays healthy, I think it could be Connecticut in the finals. I don't think they beat Vegas, but I'm interested in seeing how a Liberty Connecticut series would go. And I mean, they got the defense to slow. You're never stopping Stewie, but they might have the defense to slow her down a little bit and force the others to beat them, which at times they've been capable of, at times they haven't. And the things that they haven't been capable of doing the entire year is playing perimeter defense. And so I could see it being Connecticut versus Vegas, but I really do think it just ends up being on the matchups and who's healthy, who's not by the end of the season. There's so many ifs and buts that could go into who does it, but the Liberty, they seem they could very well make it, but in my eyes they could very well be upset just because they're not incredibly consistent. They are a prime like upset team for a team that talented.
Okay, and I think I would go with you there with Connecticut. But like the Brid Jones piece hurts that for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna take it kind of the same vein as your argument here, as a team that's not very consistent. But I think if they pulled it all together, Washington's my like upset team.
That's a fantastic sleeper pick. Like even is just like, man, if the Liberty end up playing the Mystics in the first round, and the Mystics get healthy like right before, like if that's how this shakes out, like, man, prayers up for the Liberty, like, because
it's a bad matchup. That was shown first game of the year.
And my thing is, when you look at the Liberty, who's a good matchup for them? Because when you think about the perimeter defense, like it's that lackluster.
Connecticut.
Like, yeah, like it could be, you know, and that's my worry with them, is like there's not, like, obviously they're gonna have one-on-one matchups that they win because of the talent on the team, but as an entire team, like the talent can take them over, and I would be more surprised if they don't make the finals than if they do, for sure. But man, if there was a talented team to get upset, it's the Liberty.
I'll give you that, and I'm also gonna, like, just real fast on Washington. I think that's a good matchup. Or like they match up well against the Aces as well, with the perimeter defenders. And the perimeter players.
They're one of the very few teams that even can stand a chance with guarding all three guards.
And then the two bigs down low are also right there.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely seeing the vision. Like it really is just a matter of getting healthy.
Yeah, I'm also curious about that bench. I love the Twin Edbo addition. Sorry, I'll stop talking about Washington. We've had a lot of fun here, Tyler, talking about the second half of the season.
Yeah.
So much to look forward to. I just appreciate you so much for taking the time. Going through all of this with me. And where can people find what you do, and what are you up to next?
Yeah, for me, follow me at Tyler DeLuca. Follow the committee. Always, we're always either on Spaces or Playback watching games. It's a very fun community. We get our jokes off. We have our inside jokes in the community. It's a blast. So either one of those things, and then hopefully you'll see me around for the playoffs and going into college season in some different spots. So, but we'll have to see about those. But follow me at Tyler DeLuca so you can figure out where those spots are. That's where you can find me at right now.
Awesome. Tyler, you do great work. Thank you so much for joining the Pro Basketball Show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to follow and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at APBShow, and follow me at the AC Willett 22. Thank you so much for tuning in for a Pro Basketball Show. I am Andrew Willett.